Okay, so here we have the awesome Youbi XV-130. This was sent in by Gearbest for review. Thanks for sending it. So this is another one of the micro quadcopters that are becoming popular. So what's in the comes in this nice box. Pretty well packaged. Can also be used for storing later on. In the box you get two sets of props. These are 3x3x4, and they're actually pretty good material. Looks like they'll withstand some crashes without breaking. They are bull nose, so for these motors, these are 1306 motors. They should be okay for 3S, but for 4S they might be a little bit too much. They might be overpropping the motors, so you may want to consider getting DYS 30 by 3 by 3 by 3. These ones here. So these work well with 1306 motors. They're not as aggressive, and they're pretty cheap. They're one of the better performing props for 3-inch. So they also give you a whip antenna for the VTX. It's a linear polarized antenna, so most people use circular polarized these days. So you could always use a Elmway or any of the other CP antennas. This one doesn't look like it's gonna perform too well. It just seems they just got rid of the sheeting outside, and they just left the active element exposed. But doesn't seem that there's a balloon there. So this is probably not a good antenna for if you wanna like get good reception at longer distances and behind the obstacles. So you may want to change that. They also give you some cables for the receiver, I guess. You use this to connect the receiver, two Velcros for the batteries, and this pigtail from XT30 to a JST connector. So this would be for a battery that has JST connectors. The battery connector is XT30, so that's kind of a odd connector to use. Most people have XT60, but for this size quad and the motors, that should be okay, I think. I do use an XT30 on one of my 130s, and so far so good. It hasn't melted. Like I said, the motors are 1306 3600 kV, and I can't tell which factory these come from. They don't look like anything I've seen, so it looks like they're custom made for this company. So the frame is 2mm thick, so that they try to keep the weight down. On the specs it says it weighs 115 gram. I'll go ahead and check that out in a little bit. So if you put a 100 gram battery, that's like a 4S 800 to 900 milliamp hour. It's usually about 100 grams. So you'll still be under the 250 grams limit for requirement to register with the FAA. So that's good. The camera is a CMOS camera. It is fixed. They say it's supposed to be at 25-degree tilt, and the lens, it's supposed to be about 100-degree FOB, which is good. It's not overly wide like the one you get on the brush quads. They use, in my opinion, is way too wide, like 170 or something like that. So you can more or less see the difference. It's hard to see, but you can see the different lens there. And so they do use a all-in-one VTX and flight controller here on this board. It's an F3 base flight controller, and I think it uses the 6050 gyro. So that one, although it's supposed to be more susceptible to vibration, it still works. It's used on the micro brush FCs, and it works okay. So I'm not too concerned about that. The VTX is supposed to have multiple power, so I believe you can change it from 25 to 200 to 400 milliwatts. So that's a pretty good feature. The ESCs are BLHeli-S 20 amps, so that's plenty for these motors on 4S, and they are 4S compatible. One of the things it says on the product page is that all the PCB comes from the same factory that manufactures for DJI. So that's a good thing, I guess. And what else is there? Well, so I just gotta install the receiver. I'm gonna use a X4R by S-Bus. So I'll just go ahead and install this and go out and test fly this thing, see how it flies. They do give you the wires for both PPM and S-Bus. You can see they're slightly different location where the yellow wire is. Most people are going to be using S-Bus, so it's going to be this one here. The all-in-one board, those have a lot of the pads for connecting a buzzer, which is probably a good idea because this thing is so small, you don't want to lose it in tall grass, so a buzzer is always pretty helpful. And it also has a LED strip connector there. They give you 5-volt and LED signal. Has the UART 1, UART 2, and these other ones are for the ESCs and the camera. So I was able to flash Betaflight onto the FC. It uses a SPF Racing F3 target. The flash went pretty smooth. I didn't have to use the bootload button. So it flashed pretty well. So I flashed the latest 3.01 firmware, and that flashed pretty well, even on default PIDs. You know, it's one of the best. I prefer to use Betaflight. I'm just used to it, and it just flies really well. So yeah, I'd say if you have all your drivers on your PC configured properly, the flash should go pretty well. This type of quad is geared. It's aimed at people that don't want to build something up from scratch. So everything's put together. You do have to do a little bit of work soldering, so it's not quite ready to fly out of the box. But a lot of the more technical stuff you don't have to do. So there's a market for things like this. Some people don't have the time to build something like this, because it does take a good few hours trying to put everything together. So when you buy something like this, it's guaranteed to fly once you install the receiver and the battery. So we'll see how this flies. There's been other reviews of it already, and I'm sure you've seen them, and it does seem to fly pretty well, so I'll find out soon enough. So ready to fly without the battery. This XV-130 weighs in at 130 grams. That's with the X4R SB receiver. I did put a buzzer. It's in there, and this old Fat Shark version 1 circular polarized antenna without the cap. So that's not too bad, 130 grams. So with the 3S battery, 850 milliamp hour. This is a Nanotech. That's 198 grams. And with the 4S battery, made out of two 2S 30G graphene, 950 milliamp hour. That's 228 grams, so that's still below the 250 grams that the FAA tells you gotta register. Okay, so this is on 3S. It does have some punch on even on 3S with the 4-inch props. Oh wow, pretty cool. We got a visitor. It's a hawk. Okay, so here's 3S flights. I was using the 850 Turnigy Nanotech LiPo. I was quite surprised how fast this little quad was flying on 3S. Oh yeah, this scrambling on the video is not the VTX. I always get it when I do DVR recordings on my Fat Shark. It's the diversity receiver basically that makes it scramble. So as you can see, it has pretty good power. I mean, it's not overwhelmingly powerful on 3S, but it's enough to to do some punch outs and some acrobatics. As I learned later on, you'll see when I crash, I misjudged the right here. I misjudged the elevation, my height, my altitude. I needed a little bit more height to get out of the dive and or start punching out earlier. But that's that's how you learn. If I was in 4S, I probably would have been able to pull out. So you have to get that in mind. I'm used to the more powerful quads, so that's part of it. But it fared pretty well on that crash. It was on concrete there on asphalt. I thought I had broken something, but when I went to pick it up, it was pretty good. Just a couple of bent props, which I straightened out and kept flying. I think this is this is with the same set. I think it was flying. It was a little wobbly at the beginning, so I brought it back in and fixed the tracking on the blades. Yeah, it's a fun little quad. For the price, it's not too bad. Like as I said earlier, for people that don't wanna deal with having to build one from scratch, this one should be a pretty good one to buy. The components, the ESCs and the flight controller, they look pretty good. The quality on the PCB it's pretty good. It's very clean. As you can see, there's no noise on the video, so they've done a good job at isolating any noise from the ESCs. So the power that gets the camera and the VTX seem to be pretty clean. And as you can see, I crashed a couple of times and the little quad survived. So it's not fragile. So that's a good thing, because you don't want to be flying it and crashing and just have one crash and that's it. It's done. So yep, fun little quad. So after all that crashing, the awesome XV-130 survived pretty well. I did get some minor dent right there. That's on one of the crashes. I guess it must have landed on that corner. So that's pretty good. Arm didn't break. Motors stay pretty good. So no major damage at all. I mean, I don't. Not even the props broke. They did bend, and I did change them. They did pretty well actually. These props are quite strong. On the concrete, they did get some chips right here on the edges, but these they still, I mean, they're still usable. You do need to fix the tracking, because they bend and they bent, and like one blade would be out of track, so you gotta just bend it back and eyeball it, make sure they're all up at the same the same position, so otherwise you get wobbles. So I was able to actually bend them back into shape, and with some pliers at the park I kind of like did that to get rid of the rough edges. So overall pretty good. The little drone can survive some crashes. Of course, nothing is unbreakable. So I'm sure if you do crash it just at the right location and or hard enough, something will break. Nothing's unbreakable. But yeah, this one did pretty well. So, and it even on 3S, it wasn't slow. It's fairly fast. I mean, it doesn't have punch out. It doesn't have like a totally fast punch out, but it's plenty good for fun, So like I said, this one would be a pretty good drone for people that don't wanna or don't have the time to build one, and they wanna get into this size of micro mini drone. Uh, then it's perfect for that. Okay, that was the review. Hope you find it interesting. And thanks for watching.